brought out another antique to join us today, a 1972 Mini Moog Model D synthesizer, serial number 1407. What am I bid? No, it's not for sale. This guy is my friend. And since I've got the matriarch, the Mini Moog became, in this house, the grandfather. He's very clean. He's a clean old man. And the matriarch runs the show, but this is the grandfather here.
It's Paul's grandfather.
It's not Paul's grandfather. It's the matriarch's grandfather.
Clean though, isn't he?
Oh, he's very clean.
He's clean, but he's a right mixer, and he can be a dirty old man, and he needs constant minding. He'd be very dirty. The purpose of this is, my idea was I wanted to show how I learned how to program synthesizers. And I learned on this. And now I can hear people saying, oh, sure, yeah, let me just get my credit card and put $6 grand on it, you know. But no, there's a good reason why I'm choosing this synthesizer to give you the way that I learned how to program synthesizers. Because you can do it these days. I mean, you can even do it for free, but there are higher quality versions, ways that you can do it with digital plugins that are amazing, that sound so close to this thing that you could probably be fooled in a blindfold test. And the price of those is absolutely bonkers cheap. I mean, it's less than it's about 2.5 burritos, you know, or who knows what they're going for. This will be coming out around the time of Black Friday, so doorbusters, get them now. But the Mini Moog is the daddy of them all, or it's the grandfather, you know, whatever. It's just a classic instrument, and it's still in use, and it's still in demand. And moreover, it's a great way to learn synthesis. So if you ever get frustrated with preset paralysis and you wish that you could just go in and dial up a sound, then it would behoove you to take a moment with a simple monophonic synthesizer and learn the basics of it. And that's what I did, because I got this thing in 1972. I had no idea. And everything that I learned, the plastic sheet is broken, that's sad. I put this on the dining room table, plugged in a pair of headphones, and opened up the owner's manual. And it's really exceedingly thin. I mean, it's 14 pages and you're done. The rest of it is I mean, there's schematics in here that, you know, this is how Behringer was able to build their version, I'm sure, when the patents ran out. It's not a lot, but it is a lot, because I went through this, and I took my time, and as I went through it, I experimented with every control as it explained things, and it very straightforward. I mean, it starts out with an introduction, defines what a electronic music synthesizer is, and then it shows the basic features, which are the sound sources and the modifiers, shows you how to set it up. And you learn the theory of it. And after a while, and you could write them down. At first, I had blank patch sheets to write down the sounds I had come up with in order to remember them. But as time went on, I found it better to remember the theory, to remember the ingredients. The sound sources are the ingredients, and the modifiers, maybe the spices. I don't want to get too carried away with it, cooking analogies. But basically, if you remember what you did to make a sound, and you think, well, let's see, I had a sawtooth and then a narrow rectangular synthesizer. I had them an octave apart, and then I had the filter set this way. You remember those things, and you can write them down until you do. But once you get to do that, you get where you can recognize sounds. You hear them on a record or anywhere. You go, yeah, I know how they did that. And you can recreate them without needing a specific recipe. And the way to get there is you experiment a lot. It's not, like I said, there's just 14 pages, and you can go through and learn the basic controls pretty quickly. But the thing to do is, and what I did was I spent hours experimenting with it and going through everything until I knew it like the back of my hand. And that was, for me, that was fun. It was a blast. I mean, it took me a year to save up the nickels and pennies for this thing. So I was just really happy to have it. I put a link to a PDF of this. It's not the exact same one. This one was typewritten. It's the one that came out a year later, and they had typeset it. But also, look, there's another way that other than plugins. I mean, there are many ways to enter this house. Many doors to this house is hardware. You can get Behringer makes their own version they call a Model D. This is not the Model D. This is a Neutron. And so if you want knobs, you can get knobs. You'd be advised that the Model D is, the knobs are a bit smaller. And the whole thing is not quite as big. This is the Neutron. I dressed it up with an overlay to make it to match my vintage Moog fetish, and I basically got it as an expander for the matriarch. So you can do that. You can get a Behringer Model D. They lowered the price on those things. They're like $230 now. That's absurd. So you can do that if you want hardware, or you can get your feet wet using software. It's just, I don't think, people debate endlessly about, what's better, digital, analog, this, that, and the other. It's whatever works for you, whatever you like. And I still use hardware, and I'm also using digital, so I don't think there's a wrong answer there. It's just the digital tools amaze me, what they can do, and the sounds are unbelievable. And of the digital tools, there's Cherry Audio's Miniverse, which was done by Mark Barton, who is like a wizard with recreating things. He did their GX80 and a bunch of other stuff. There's the Universal Audio Mini Moog, which was done with the blessing of Moog. And also Moog has an iPad app, or I think they'd also use, it works on Macintosh. I use Windows, so I don't have that. And then the Legend and the Legend HZ, there's just so many good Mini Moog emulators on the market that it's ridiculous. And they can all be had for like $40. Not all of them, I mean, each one. But they all sound good. And I'm not really interested in shootouts and comparing and saying, I could set up a sound on this and then compare it, try to set up the exact same sound on the Miniverse or the Universal Audio or the Legend. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Just to muddy the waters a little bit more, I recorded a little short jam featuring this guy, the grandfather.
That's not your grandfather.
And 3 Mini Moog plugins. Cherry Audio's Mini Verse, Universal Audio's the Moog, Mini Moog, they can call it a Moog because they license it from Moog, and the Legend HZ, which is like a Mini Moog on steroids. And in this track you're going to hear, I used all 4 of those instruments. And I'm not going to tell you who played what. You listen and you try to figure it out. Because the point I want to make is that if is it live or Memorex, it doesn't really matter. You know, if it sounds good, that's what matters. So give it a listen.
Shut up already! Damn!
You know, long as we're talking, I will admit that most of the time I want a Mini Moog sound, I'll grab one of these plugins rather than wake up the grandfather. The synthesizer is like an old house cat. It sleeps most of the time, but I woke it up and I said, come on, grandfather, we've got to make a video. And I said, yeah, all right. And it's good. I didn't even need to calibrate it. It's what can I say? So anyway, but the reason that you want to learn this is it, for one, it's a cool synthesizer. But once you learn this, what I found is the next thing I knew, I was going to Berklee College of Music, and I signed up for their electronic music class, which at the time was just a lab where you got an hour each week turned loose on a big ARP 2500 system. And that was fun. The ARP 2500, if you saw Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that was what the ARP 2500 was. But what I had learned on the Mini Moog gave me a head start in getting around on that thing. And also, when I finally got to LA and started working in the keyboard department at Guitar Center, which was my master plan to conquer the world, I had to get up to speed on a whole bunch of synthesizers because they had everything back in those days. They still do, I guess. They don't have ARP anymore because ARP is no longer with us, sadly. But they had ARP, and they had Moog, Roland, Oberheim, Yamaha. When sequential circuits came out, they carried that. So, I mean, it was like a ton of synthesizers. And I had to get familiar with all of them. But because I had learned the formulas, the basics, I could get around on all of them without cracking a manual. Once in a while, you have to get into the manual. And I'm like everybody else, I'm trying to change my habit of not reading manuals, because I think back to when this manual, which was very well written and concise and clear and to the point, how much it helped me. Now I'd like to have my coffee in the morning and go through the manual with some of these more advanced tools that I have, and learning them. So it's good, but once you learn the architecture of this is called subtractive synthesis, because you take a very rich waveform like this, and then open it all the way up, and you start subtracting. And there's so many ways that you can control that. I still love the idea that it's all voltage controlled. And still, 52 years later, I am dumbfounded to think that the electricity, that the same thing that runs your hairdryer or your toaster oven, you plug this thing into the wall, and that electricity comes in and it's controlling oscillators, filter, voltage-controlled amplifier. And what Bob Moog did was to devise a system of volts per octave that he could divide it into 12 steps, which is what we have in Western music. There's 12 notes from C to B natural. It's 12 notes. So you can add a keyboard and you've got a musical instrument. Oscillators had been around. I've got a test oscillator from that RCA made in the 30s. I got it on eBay just because I thought it looked cool. It doesn't really work, and I don't know why I bought it, but it still looks cool, and it just sits around. But so oscillators had been around as test equipment. Bob Moog figured out, you know what? If you can control these with voltage, you can make music with them. And then, boom, a few years later, Switched on Bach comes out and the whole world gets turned upside down.
Well, the first synthesizer I saw was from me hearing the album Switched on Bach.
It's very cool. So for learning synthesis, you can't go wrong with learning a Mini Moog. All the concepts are there. The oscillators are the sound sources. There's also a noise generator. The filter is a low-pass filter, but it's legendary. It's really good. What Moog called back in the days, they called these contour generators. I don't know why they did that with the Mini Moog. They were already using envelope generator on their modulars. But that's what shapes the sound, either in tone or amplitude, volume. And it's just got everything that you need in here. There's 3 oscillators. You can put an external sound into the filter, or you can run its sound back into itself and make the overload come in, get feedback. You can modulate with the 3rd oscillator. You can modulate either the other 2 oscillators and or the filter, and that's how you get things like vibrato. But you can also do And that's what I mean by experimenting with it. I spent so much time just fooling around with that kind of thing and just going, oh my God, this is so cool. You can even do FM synthesis with a mini Moog, which is, FM stands for frequency modulation, and that's what's happening here when you hear that exaggerated sound that I've just set up. But it's the output of oscillator 3 is modulating the frequency of oscillators 1 and 2. And that's what a DX7, a Yamaha DX7 did on a more, different level. You can't really make DX7 sounds on this, but you can do FM synthesis. You can make bell-like sounds. You can make bell sounds using frequency modulation. You can also, there's a modulation mix control. You don't have to modulate with the oscillator 3. You can modulate with noise, and you can mix between the two, and you come up with some really interesting sounds that way. So that's how I learned, and it worked for me. And if you're interested, I recommend doing it, because you could get into it for nothing. You could get, if you want to learn modular synthesis, you can get Cherry Audio's voltage modular starter system for free. You can also get Cherry Audio's Oberheim module, synthesizer expander module for free. So, I mean, you can learn this without spending any money if you're interested. But once you learn it, then you've learned the basic stuff, and then you'll be able to hear things. Like I remember when the Prophet first came out, and it was that thing that we'd all dreamed of, is a polyphonic mini Moog, because Dave Smith really based the voice architecture of it on the mini Moog. And the first time I got my hands on a Prophet 5, I didn't need to look at the manual, because I could just look at it and go, oh my God, it's a mini Moog. And I could set up whatever sound I wanted to. And that's another thing, is when you learn this, then you're not tied to having to use presets. I get preset paralysis. I still haven't learned how to program Arturius pigments, because I get lost going through the hundreds of presets, and I need to just put it on an initial patch and start really going through that thing, because it's a cool instrument. Preset paralysis is you're looking for a sound and you can't find it. You forget what you're looking for, and you give up. If you know the sound that you want, you got the sound in your head, then you just can go and start twisting knobs, or using your mouse, twisting virtual knobs, and off you go. But you need to know the theory. You need to know what a square wave sounds like, what a sawtooth sounds like, and you get this through experience, and through experimenting, you get to know it. I mean, this is just a low pass filter, but as you go on, you'll learn what a high pass filter sounds like, what a band pass filter sounds like. You learn what the resonance sounds like. They call it emphasis on a mini Moog. If you learn the theory of how a simple synthesizer like this operates, then you're not reliant on recipes so much, because you know more than how, you know why, and that's important to know. You can recreate a sound just by hearing it, and using your ears is the best way to learn to program synthesizers, is listening and seeing what the controls do, how they change the sound, and using your ears, and you're constantly tweaking and changing the sound. And that's the way to learn. That's what I was talking about with experimenting. How do I teach anybody how to do anything when I'm always looking for something? I'm experimenting. And when you get there, then then you're ready to record the sound, or you're ready to save it as a preset. This doesn't have presets, but actually I don't mind that, because presets are like essential for live performance these days. But if not having presets forces you to learn, to remember the recipe, to remember what the ingredients were, and the ratios, and how much, and how many oscillators, and what the sound sources were, and where the filter was set, and that kind of thing. And you need to use your ears, even if you're using presets. Sometimes you're working with it in a track, and it's not really sitting right. So you need to know how to basically tweak the thing. What does it need? Does it need more envelope generator? Does it need to open the cutoff frequency of the filter more? How are you going to make it sit there without sticking out? That's always the thing. But that's using your ears and knowing what controls affect what. And you learn that by learning a simple synthesizer like this. It doesn't have to be like that. This Neutron that I pointed out before is also a nice little synthesizer. And you can pick these up used for about $200. I did. I got this mostly to be a Eurorack style expander for the Matriarch. I haven't actually fooled around with it that much, but it's a nice little synth for what it is. And I also want to point out that besides the manual that I've linked to, the one that I showed you that came with this synthesizer, all the plugins that I mentioned also come with excellent manuals as well. And the whole point of this thing is to get over. Everybody hates to read the manual. I get that. I hate to read the manual. But if you do, and combined with a healthy dose of experimenting, then you're going to know what you're doing, and it'll pay off. Believe me. So, it doesn't have to be a mini Moog. I chose a mini Moog because why not? It's certainly has passed the test of time. It doesn't make your track sound dated the way, say, a DX7 will be like instant 80s. I'm not knocking DX7. I loved mine. I'm kind of sorry I don't have it anymore. But I chose the mini Moog because, one, that's the way that I learned, and that's the whole point, is that I'm showing you how I learned how to program synthesizers. But it doesn't have to be a mini Moog. It could be any other synthesizer. It should be a subtractive synthesizer, probably monophonic, just something with a simple layout that's oscillators, filters, envelope generators, that kind of thing. It could be even one of the new ones, like a Micro Freak or the one of the Korg Volcas or something like that. But the idea is just to learn the theory of subtractive synthesis, because you find subtractive synthesis in everything. It's like when J.L. Cooper did an add-on for the first emulator, it was a low-pass filter and envelope generators. And it made all the difference with that thing. And subsequent samplers came out, and they all had filters and envelope generators. And if you are brave enough to get past the labyrinthine menu diving with most romplers, you're going to find filters and envelope generators. So learn this or something like it, and it will serve you well. I want to give a shout out to my friend David Rogoff for doing an expert job of bringing this guy back up to optimum health. And I can't believe it's been 2 years since he did that, because I wanted it done for his 50th anniversary, the 50th birthday, which you can see that video on this channel. But that's that, if you want to learn more about synthesis. And I recommend it. I think it's fascinating. I mean, synthesis is, to me, it's very similar to music in that there's always something new to learn. I'm going through the Moog 900 modules that Mark Barton modeled, one at a time. I'm trying to learn those because I never had a chance to. Very rarely did I use a Moog modular in my career because those things are ungodly expensive. It was a rental when we did do that. But with the modeling and the plugins, it's a new world. Not to denigrate the hardware. The hardware is fun, and this guy is the grandfather. Rocks on. It's a good beast. So that's my story. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe, tell your friends, and hit the like button and all that nonsense, okay? All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye. And I think that's enough. I've said enough. I've said too much. We went round to see Paul. He wasn't home. Okay, enough. It's done. Stop.